For the last 10 years, at every single family dinner, I was the cautionary tale. You had my brother, the hotshot lawyer, my sister, the brilliant doctor, and then there was me, Jessica Bennett, the daughter who washed out of the military, the failure. They had no clue that after they left for their respectable jobs each morning, I was overseeing operations that, on paper, didn't even exist. That lie was my armor. It was the only thing protecting them from the truth of what I really did. I just never guessed that the walls would come crashing down at my own father's retirement ceremony, in front of everyone we knew. The truth really picks its own moments, doesn't it? And mine chose the most public one imaginable. For a decade, my life was built on a lie so solid that sometimes, even I got lost in it. To my family, I was the one who couldn't hack it. The daughter who came home from basic training with her tail between her legs and a story that never quite added up. So, they filled in the blanks themselves. She just wasn't strong enough. My father, a retired colonel, would sigh to his friends. The discipline, it wasn't in her. My mom, bless her, tried to help in her own way, constantly sending me links to community college courses or articles about finding a nice, stable career. My siblings, already miles ahead in their own lives, would just give me these pitying looks across the dinner table. "It's okay, Jess," my sister Sarah told me once, patting my hand. "Not everyone is cut out for that kind of pressure." Every word was a paper cut. The worst part wasn't just their disappointment, it was the canyon it carved between us. I couldn't tell them that I didn't wash out. I was pulled, fast-tracked into a program so secret that my entire military record had to be wiped clean. The failure story was my cover, and it was the best camouflage I could ask for. It was so depressingly average that nobody would ever think to look closer. I told myself the lie was to protect them. The missions I ran were in the shadows, against threats the public could never know existed. If anyone ever found out who I was, my family would immediately become a target. So, I took their judgment. I let them think I was crashing in my old bedroom, bouncing between dead-end jobs, completely adrift. But it was brutal. I felt like a ghost in my own home, a total stranger to the people who were supposed to know me best. Living with being constantly underestimated became my own private war. Living a double life is pure exhaustion. It's 1,000 tiny lies, all stacked up and ready to fall. And we had some close calls. I'll never forget one Thanksgiving. I had just gotten back from a 3-week op in a place that was officially peaceful. I was running on fumes, maybe 4 hours of sleep, and my head was still buzzing from the high-stakes decisions. During dinner, my dad made a toast. "To success," he said, looking right at my brother and sister, and then giving me that sad, familiar glance. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a coded text, "Asset compromised. Protocol 7." My blood ran cold. I mumbled something about a migraine and spent the next hour locked in my childhood bathroom, whispering into my phone, coordinating a life-or-death response half a world away. When I came back out, my mom just looked at me with this worried expression. "You seem so stressed, dear," she said. "Maybe that online data entry job is just too much." The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. Another time, my father found one of my challenge coins. It must have slipped out of my pocket. He picked it up, his brow furrowed. "Where did you get this, Jessica?" he asked, his voice sharp. He recognized the task force insignia. My heart was pounding. Thinking fast, I spun some story about finding it at a flea market. He didn't look like he bought it. He just stared at me, his eyes a mix of disappointment and suspicion. "You were always a terrible liar, Jess," he said, handing it back. He had no idea how good I'd gotten. After that, I built the walls around my secret life even higher. The day of my sister Sarah's promotion ceremony felt like a pressure cooker. It was held on the same base where my dad had served for 30 years, a place haunted by memories. For them, it was a day to celebrate Sarah becoming a captain in the medical corps. For me, it was just another performance. I was the washout daughter, showing up out of obligation. I wore a plain dress, trying my best to blend into the wallpaper. Standing in the back, I watched Sarah on stage, her uniform perfect, my parents beaming in the front row. My dad caught my eye and gave me a tight smile that said, "This is what I wanted for you." I just nodded, that old, familiar ache settling in. After the ceremony, during the reception, a man in a highly decorated uniform started walking toward my family. I knew him instantly, General Thompson, the base commander. A man I had briefed 3 times in a secure, classified room. My brain went into overdrive. He won't recognize you. Not here. Not now. He congratulated Sarah, then turned to my father. "Colonel Bennett, good to see you. You must be incredibly proud." "I am, sir," my father replied. "Of all my children." But General Thompson's eyes scanned right past them and landed on me. Confusion flickered across his face, then it clicked into recognition. He straightened up instinctively. The noise of the crowded room just faded away. He walked right up to me as my family watched in stunned silence. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low but clear. Then, with more certainty, he snapped to attention. "General Bennett. I didn't realize you'd be here. It's an honor, ma'am." The world stopped. My sister's face was a blank slate of confusion. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. And my father? The career military man just stared, his mind clearly short-circuiting as it tried to process the impossible. He used my real rank. 2 words that brought a decade of lies crashing down. The silence was shattered by my father, who just whispered one word. "What?" The car ride home was the longest, most silent trip of my life. The air was so thick with shock and confusion you could barely breathe. The second we walked through the door, the dam finally broke. "What in the world was that, Jessica?" my mother asked, her voice trembling. "Was that some kind of sick joke?" "He called you a general," Sarah said flatly. That's not possible." My father was the last to speak. He didn't shout. His voice was low and shaking with something deeper than anger. It was betrayal. "All this time," he said, looking at me like he'd never seen me before. "We thought you were a failure. We told people you were a failure. Were you just laughing at us this whole time?" That's what broke me. "Laughing?" I shot back, my own voice rising. "You think any part of this was funny? For 10 years, I've sat here and listened to all of you talk about how I threw my life away. I let you believe it because I had to protect you. I laid it out for them, without getting into the classified details. I told them about a different career path, one that demanded total secrecy. I told them how much their disappointment had hurt, how every pitying look felt like a punch to the gut. I wasn't mocking you," I said, my voice finally cracking. I was shielding myself. I stopped trying to share anything about my life because you met everything with doubt. It hurt too much, so I just stopped. The truth just hung there in the room, raw and ugly. My mom started to cry, not with anger anymore, but with what looked like pure regret. Sarah stared at the floor. My father sank into his armchair, the proud colonel finally slumping. He looked ancient. This wasn't a victory. It was just the painful, messy release of a poison that had been building for years. In the weeks that followed, things started to shift. It wasn't instant. It was slow and incredibly awkward. We had long, hard conversations. Apologies were made, not just for thinking I was a failure, but for all the years of making me feel so small that I had to keep a secret that big. In a moment I'll never forget, my father admitted his disappointment had really been fear for my safety. "The lie is gone, but we're still dealing with the scars. we're building something new, something based on a complicated and difficult truth. They might never know the details of what I do, but they're finally starting to see the person who does it. They see the weight I carry, not as a failure, but as the burden of command. This story isn't really about the big reveal. It's about the quiet pain of being misunderstood by the people you love and realizing that the biggest battles are often the ones nobody ever sees. If you've ever felt underestimated or like you were hiding a part of yourself, I bet this felt familiar. Let me know your story in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this one, make sure to like and subscribe for more, because everyone's got a story that's waiting to be told.